Welcome to my creative Tsimshian native blog. Dalawande. Welcome to my creative Tsimshian native blog. I'm your host, Bill Helin. Today we're going to be focusing on hand-engraved Aboriginal jewelry. Now, Aboriginal jewelry is something that's come about since the late 1800s, when they used to use the silver and gold coins for pounding out into hand-carved bracelets. Now, the designing process and the application of the designs must have been an incredible challenge, especially back in the days when there wasn't any modern tools such as what we have today. We have air-powered tools, we have reciprocating hand electric chisels and things that make the grunt work a little bit easier, just like having computers instead of typewriters. The most challenging thing about buying Aboriginal jewelry is looking for the right kind of quality and trying to understand and comprehend what all those little lines are all about. First off, the traditional designs coming from any of the different tribal groups on the coast are a little bit different from north to south. My style of work is called Tsimshian. It's very similar to the Haida style, which is a little bit more structural and has less human content. When I say human content, I mean the small characters that are composed within ovoids and within the interiors of all these different designs that you see cut into the metal. So one thing I look for and try to get my clients to understand about their designs is the form line. Now you can see in this design here, it's a raven's head. Now the way that you can tell a raven's head is by this beak. You start at the beak here and go back in towards the eye. Now the eyeballs can come in many different shapes, as seen here. And in most cases the two-dimensional designs are in oval or round or the traditional ovoid shapes. Now those traditional ovoid shapes is directly in the middle is a small ovoid inside another ovoid. Now it's kind of, most of them have flat bottoms or slight curve in the bottom, but traditionally in the designing process it's an ovoid inside an ovoid inside an ovoid. And those three stages come down into maintaining this same consistency, especially in our northern style. It has the consistency of a squarish bottom and the sides almost like a loaf of bread. Get a little bit of rounded corners here. And the comparison, as you can see in the black and white design, is that it is applied to the metal, but there is no color. So you have to take the visual concept and look at the form line that creates these shapes. When we look at this shape, which is inside of a wing, which is on the side of the bird design, or the raven design. So this becomes like a wing socket. Inside this one, you can see a little eyeball right there. And that little eyeball composes either a human face, or in this case, a salmon head or trout head. Now that's symbolic of survival, or how we survive, or how we make our living. But it's all about the importance of that salmon feeding our families and our future generations. So that ovoid, as you can see, is inside a wing socket. Now, the feathers extend out in this direction. You can see all the little feathers coming off in the wing. And this cross-hatching here, all that cross-hatching is the background, or the sky, or the ground, whatever background the artist intends to create to make that design stand out. So that's the idea, is separating the actual form line and the actual native design from the background. So in my style of work, many years back, well over 25 years ago, I started this style of feathering design in my designs because I got bored with the traditional style and wanted to create something that had a little bit more realism to it. And that gives people an easier identity or connection to all of this detail. They can say, oh, that's got feathers on it, that must be a bird. So yes, this is true. The other different things that I like to incorporate in my work, I'm all about detail. I love detail, I love fine work, which is why I adapt to my own Tsimshian heritage and the style of design, because it's so detailed. And I just love that aspect of designing. So again, we're back to an ovoid shape, where centrally on this bracelet, this raven's head composes the central and focal point of this story bracelet. Now this bracelet I'm creating will have a stone set in the middle of this circle, which will be symbolic of the sun. And outside of the sun here, you can see the rays shining and reflecting off of this happy moon character. So you see there's a crescent shape to this moon face. And his eyes are usually closed, like sleeping at night. In our mythology, the stories are about the moon lady, not the man on the moon. It's actually a evening or a nighttime personage of Mother Earth as she watches over all her creation, all her characters that she feeds on the earth, or creatures, and she tries to shine the light in the evening to give them safe passage and to watch over them so they can forage for food or find their way home. Back to the central part of the design, which is the raven's head. So here we have the ovoid shape with the eye inside of it. So that's forming the main part of the head, the raven's head. Now, it starts right about here and breaks off, maintaining this ovoid shape. The head will be separated but surrounded by a form line. So you can see it joins here very finely, which in traditional design there's always a fine connection to maintain the composition or the structural design format of Northwest Coast native art. So connected here on the front of that ovoid shape for the head, it's finely connected in each corner, is the beak. And the beak comes out to the tip and goes up this way. There's the nostril right here. It's all beveled out or gouged out with a gouge tool, something like that. So that gouge tool makes it easy, makes it possible to dig out that shape. Give it a little bit of a dip. Now, another thing about hand engraving traditional native jewelry is that just because there's a lot of detail doesn't mean that there was a lot of work. Yes, it is a lot of work to engrave detail, but it is actually harder work and more intense work to dig out this area or dig out angles. Like you see all around this raven's head, I like to focus on having definition. So I cut, no matter where the detail is, I like to cut deep edges, cut angles in, and usually when you're buying native jewelry, any hand engraved jewelry, all you got to do is run your finger across that surface And you can feel the depth. You can feel the depth in those areas. You don't have to just see it to know that there was a lot of work put in. If you run your fingers over that and you feel lots of deep areas, you know that your artist that has created your jewelry piece has put a lot of work into it if there's a lot of area gouged out. Detail, this is a part of the secret of the jewelry trade as far as engraving. Number one, it's designing, but also the amount of work that you put into the finishing of your detailing. So like cleaning edges, like when you find your jewelry or you're looking at jewelry in the stores, you can check out all these edges. See, this is a halfway done bracelet. Well, pretty much totally designed and engraved. Still going to do a little bit of cleanup work on it. The initials, my last name at the end of the bracelet. Like a painting, I like to engrave my signature on the front of the bracelet, on the tips, or I hide it in with the design. And that's like a painting. It's the original signature for an original hand-engraved piece. Now to take that hand-engraved piece and look at a finished bracelet. Now this is very similar in the design. I'm recreating this to add another stone into it, but this is technically how this bracelet is going to end up, with a larger stone in the mouth, of course. It's what the next bracelet will be. But you can see when I hammered out that area, you can see in the back it's been punched out a little bit to give it a little bit of dimension for the eyeball. But when you're buying native jewelry, run your fingers over it, look at all the details. You can see, I got some smudge marks from fingerprints, but when you look at different areas, check out the depth of the carving, check out how clean the edges are, how well defined the borders are, and the detail. It should be nice and clean, even, fine lines. So when your artist has created your bracelet, or a bracelet you're looking to purchase, check out for all the details. See how the composition of the head of your animal is. Inside this one, it's a human face. That's the human spirit of that raven. So detail, clean edges. You can tell the clean edges. You can see where they are and how clean the edges are. If there's little in the cut angles where all that detail is, you can see inside here, around the outside, and how these lines are cut inside the face and around the eyeball. Check for clean edges. If you see little cut marks in the edges of the ovoids or the perimeters of your design, like all around the outside here, when you look at the outsides and the edges, check to see if there's little cut marks in each edge. And that comes from pushing the engraved metal into the edge as you cut those cross hatches. Now sometimes some people, if they're in a hurry and the artist digs into the edges, there'll be little cut marks around the perimeters. So check that out. Always check out the detail, how clean the work is done, and how even the lines are. Again, these are called U-shapes, split U-shapes, with the feather cuts all consistently engraved into the edges. Just make sure those edges are nice and clean. That shows you the good quality and the care that the artist took to go and recut the edges to make sure they're nice and clean and defined. So that's what you want to look at. This is another U shape in the wing, and the ovoid with the human face inside of it with the teeth. You can see the teeth right here. Nostril, eyeball, eyebrow. There's the eyebrow. And all these cuts are coming from the sunshine as it shines its light through the universe. In the